It's called a calabash style, and I made it out of wet wood. It's apple wood. There were several of us that went up to Beloit and took down some apple trees, and this is a real gnarly piece, so I hollowed it out. I went to Dick Gilder's house, and he showed me how to make a hollowing jig. So this was my first attempt at doing that with the laser that comes over, and that way it follows. I designed the outside first, and then I followed that profile on the inside. So that was rather interesting. But the next day, I got a new design. and wood will do that. If you cut wet wood, it will warp. To be honest with you, I kind of like it. You know,
I do too.
It's pretty sharp. So anyway, it's a calabash style. That's what they call it. It's like an Indian bowl. Some of them do not even have a foot on them. They're just completely rounded, so they sit there and rock or whatever. They're a little bit heavier on the bottom, so they kind of sit up or a little bit of an angle. But I ended up putting just a slight foot on it. 5 coats of wipe-on poly, and then I sanded it with 1500 grit sandpaper after it was completely cured, because I don't like that real shiny look. The inside I didn't get sanded a whole lot, but especially the outside. So this was gloss, but I used 1500 grit and hand sanded it and took the shine off of it. The other thing is, I know nobody in this room makes mistakes, but I'm going to admit to one. I had cut this out, roughed it out, and then I let it dry, and of course it warped pretty good. And when I put it back on the lathe, it got pretty thin. Well, while it dried, I had a couple breaks, so I used epoxy, and to get the dark color, I used, believe it or not, Sanka coffee, the granulated stuff that kind of gives a little bit more texture in it, rather than just straight epoxy, which is kind of shiny. You can always color epoxy, but I added Sanka, and that just helped fill the gap. It didn't run as bad. So then I put it back on the lathe, and I turned it. And all of a sudden I hear this chatter. Well, it started to crack again. So with my attitude, I said, "You're done." So I took it over the bandsaw and cut it in half. And I said, "Yep, I got it awful thin." So anyway, that's what a bowl looks like cut in half. And I have seen on YouTube sometimes where if you do a piece and you want to check your work, yeah, you're going to ruin the piece, but take the bandsaw and cut it in half and see how you're doing. So, you know, this is definitely too thin, but just for your own information and your own skill builder, cut something in half and see what you got. The other thing I made was 2 Freedom pens out of these glued up blanks. I'm sorry?
Did you read Mel's article in that magazine?
I did not.
Yeah, he's a celebrity now.
He's a
He
he made a magazine.
I made the Big Rochelle glossy magazine. Yeah, it was another birdhouse. They glued up probably 10 different kinds of wood. You know, just cut little thin strips like he did, and plane them down, get them as thin as they could, glued them all together, and I cut them in 4 pieces, turned them different inside out, and put pieces in between them. Just got a pattern, and then turned it into a birdhouse. Yeah, this has an inlaid piece of spalted maple in it, some Padauk.
How long does that take you?
Probably about a week of glue up and a few hours of turning. The glue up's harder than the turning.
Yeah.
This wasn't quite finished for the last meeting, but this is a piece of cherry, and it's been, I didn't even hollow it out, I just had it on the lathe. And my wife saw the outside of it done and decided, yeah, that's mine, and that's going to be for potpourri. Super glue finish, a lot of super glue on this one, but I think it turned out really nice. So that was cherry, and then I started doing ring cups, little cups for women to put their rings in. This is the second one because the first one my wife is absconded with and will not part with. So I made this one, made another one, little cup. I don't have the lid for that with me, but then she decided, well, we're going to show these off. Then decided, well, you know what? Since those turned out so well, I need you to make 5 of them. So these are 3 of them. I decided to go with a little bigger. This one's walnut, and then these 2 are actually just down the branch from that piece of cherry. So these are both cherry, and so I got to make 2 more, and then I got 5 bottle stoppers to do for Christmas gifts.
We're getting there.
Brought this in because it looked like a turning. It's actually a gourd. And I used an alcohol dye, but instead of painting it like this, you just take it on a pad and tap it. And you will stipple all the way around. To get the leaves on, I put stickers on here first, the whole thing here, painted the whole thing or stippled the whole thing, and then I took the stickers off, and then you have, it looks like I painted it. Then I took and wood burned all the veins and glued this thing on top and the thing on the bottom, and it looks like a turning now.
Very clever.
But this stippling with the alcohol dye, you can use leather dye also and do the same thing. You can do that with the turning also. So either way you can do it. Then you just cut out the top and you're all done. You don't even have to hollow out the top or the inside.
There's a little story behind this thing. There's a fella in Park Ridge, received this from his dad. It's been sitting on a shelf for a number of years, and he was looking to have it turned. And what he did, he looked in the website, and he found the Black Hawk wood carvers, which I'm also part of. And he called one of the members at the carving club and said, "Do you know anybody that can do turning?" Well, he knew I did the turning part of it. He says, I just kind of gets a phone call from him. I said, "Well, bring it out and let me see what you got." He said, "We'd like to have a bowl turned out of it." I said, "Well, this is what I got. The thing weighs a ton if you picked it up." And like I said, I took it this morning to our carving club, and I'm looking at, okay, if we're gonna make a bowl, you know, gotta take out the inside of it. There's no way I can spin this on the lathe I have. This thing is just too heavy. But then one of the fellows in our club, Bob Matthews, who's an excellent bird carver, he's looking at that thing and he's going back on. He says, "I know exactly what that is." He says, goes back, he says, "It's an eagle. Got the eye socket, got all the feathers, etc." He says, "Don't even think about turning it. That's what it should be." So I told Bob, I said, "Okay, Bob, the guy's looking to have it done. What kind of numbers here come with dollar-wise?" He said, "He's looking to pay to have it done." He's still working out the numbers. I guess I haven't heard from him. But like I say, I'm going to go back to him, and like I say, I don't know if anybody, you fellas have an idea what the turn.
Guys, so this is what I did. Kind of, somebody was telling me what kind of the, if you don't know what it is, what is it called? You found it?
Free wood.
It's free wood? Okay. So we did all the turning and been doing a lot of other things. So we got some cherry here. So this is one that you and I kind of got started. Did some more work on this one. So it's walnut and I really kind of like these. So they turned out pretty good to me. So I'm enjoying it. And for you new people, it doesn't take a lot of time. Just keep at it. You know. Just
Practice.
practice. What's it? Sharp tools and practice, right?
Right.
I just heard that again tonight, so, and I enjoy it.
Thank you.
Everything in here from refrigerator magnets to pens to inlaid pocket watches and what do you call it? Catalpa plate. I'm trying to get rid of some of my small stuff.
Small, yeah.
But it's
They're blue, actually. I'm gonna make green ones.
There you go.
Let's start out. I was turning some yo-yos, which is actually more difficult than it sounds.
And I dyed some green and I dyed some blue. And I liked the colors a lot. They were done in white oak. But I thought I'd turn some bowls and use the same dye technique. This is poplar. And it's got nice color variation and all. But this is poplar dyed. And the dye really makes the grain and figure pop. So you can see all the little bird's eye knots and the flame. And I did a sister bowl. Same thing. The dye is just it's an aniline dye. You wipe it on, and it makes the figure really pop out at you. It's an alternative in finishing.
Did you use a water-based dye?
These are actually done with a water-based dye, but it's actually easier to work with an alcohol-based dye. I just happen to have a water-based dye.
So you used the powder?
Yeah, it comes as a powder.
Yeah, right.
And an ounce of powder goes into a quart of water, and then from there you can dilute it. This is 50%. This is considerably weaker than full strength, and you can dilute it as much as you want.
Why do you like alcohol better than water?
Because the alcohol doesn't raise the grain.
Does it? Oh, okay.
The water will. The water
What
based.
about the figures? Which one is bigger for the shoulder figures, like the bird's eye? Same?
Oh, yeah. No, the dye is going to do that. The
No, I
stain-
mean, the alcohol based do the same thing?
Oh, yeah, they behave the same.
Behave the same.
Yeah. It's just, especially if you're working with white oak, use the alcohol base. It's like whiskey.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I started turning about a year ago and then got way late and hadn't been doing much turning. My daughter, as soon as she found out I was turning stuff, she said she wants a pepper grinder for Christmas. Well, I didn't have the equipment, so I finally got the equipment, and so I made a practice one, and now I'm going to start on hers for this Christmas.
Bruce did a good job teaching you, didn't he?